I think we should be good.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's still morning, so there's a clock actually in this room, so that was right. Welcome. I'm Mike Dennan. I'm the Vice Provost for Teaching and Learning, Dean of the Division of Undergraduate Education here at UCI. And this is one of my favorite events. I know we administrators say that all the time, and so we have 8 zillion favorite events, it seems. But there is nothing quite like celebrating our undergraduates and the research they do. It is an amazing time, and it's so great to be back to doing it in person. So I think it's really important for us to celebrate with a Zot that I will be taking a video of. I'm a little bit behind. I have about 3 Zots from this week. I still need to tweet, but this will be on the list. So if you're not familiar, if you're a visitor, you're going to raise your hand. You're going to lower your fingers to your thumb. That makes a llama. We're not the llamas, we're the anteaters. So you slide your thumb back, that gives you the nose of the anteater. And then I go 1, 2, 3. And then you go zot, 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 as loud as you can. That is the ferocious battle cry of the anteater as it attacks its prey. I'm going to video, I'm slow. So I'm going to start over here. So everybody over there, you got to make sure you hold your Zot like we're still doing it when we finish, okay? And if you're not loud enough, I make you do it again, because I am a teacher. That's just what we do. So ready? 1, 2, 3. Zot, zot, zot. No. We're going to go really loud, okay? 1, 2, 3. Zot, zot, zot. And hold it. Excellent. Okay. So now that we're warmed up, I just have a few quick comments I want to make before I bring on our first speaker. I just like to reflect very briefly on what it means to do research. Research is an academic word we use. And I was thinking about it yesterday when I was going to talk about this a little bit. Like, how do we communicate to the outside world the breadth of research? Because if I say the word research, I'll be honest, think about what immediately comes to your head before you stop and think about it. And I'm willing to bet that unfortunately most of you thought of something science related. We throw out the word research and we tend to think about a lab, we tend to think about building something, we tend to think about Bill Nye the Science Guy, beakers, bubbling stuff. But that's not really what research is limited to. The great thing about Urop, the great thing about UCI is research occurs in every field. And if you've looked at the schedule, we see we have School of the Arts performances coming up after this. That is research from an academic perspective. The way I like to think about it, it's about asking questions and interrogating our experiences around us and trying to find the answers to those exciting open-ended questions. And when I was thinking about this, I thought a fun way to look at it, instead of looking at it by field, which is what we often do, I thought let's look at it by the size of things and start at the smallest piece, right? And I'm a physics professor. I don't actually study particle physics, but at the smallest scale, we talk about the fundamental building blocks of nature, quarks and gluons and what holds everything together. And at that point, you're asking these fundamental questions about how does the world come together? And then you start moving out in scale. I did this, I was mean, I skipped chemistry yesterday. I'll skip chemistry again today. I do like chemistry, but it scares me. So that's why I'm skipping it. And then you get to like the biology that's going on in your body. It's still a little chemistry, it's not a little biology, the cells, the molecules. And what we realize is we have amazing new tools. And when you have new tools and new ways of looking at the world, you get new questions. And you actually have things like thinking about possible individualized, personalized medicine. We're wearing watches, many of us, that can make measurements on what's going on in our body better than any measurement that could have been made 50 years ago by a huge piece of equipment. That's absolutely mind-boggling. And then you go up to the next scale, and you've got people and societies and communities interacting with each other, right? And questions about the human existence, the human experience. And if you think about UCI, we're a circle. I sort of moved over to the humanities social science part of the circle now, right? And we are seeing new interesting questions because we have this weird thing called technology now. How is that changing society? I argue in a podcast I'm on, not to self-advertise, we are now stuck in the Matrix. I don't know if any of you watched the movie The Matrix, but the basic premise is humans are stuck in little pods and they're batteries for all the machines. We are batteries for our machines. I don't want to scare you, but I take care of this thing. Like, it's my job to make sure it's fed and it's happy, because if my phone's not happy, I'm not happy. So it's a wireless matrix that we're now stuck in, which raises questions for us that really the only right tools to answer involve the humanities and the social sciences in ways interacting with the sciences. It has to be interdisciplinary, right? And then we have questions at the societal level of interesting things of why, when we created all this technology that was supposed to make our lives easy and we don't have to work hard, why are we all working so hard? And I think the pandemic highlighted that. That's a fundamental, deep question that can only really be answered through research, and lots of different types of research. It's humanistic approaches, it's social science approaches, as well as the technology. And then we go even bigger scales, and I get excited again because we're back to physics. We can now have the tools to look at planets outside the solar system. We can look back to the beginning of the universe. And so we get to the largest scales and other exciting questions. And at every point in every scale, humanity asks questions. And then we try and express the answers and experiences we have. And that's research too. How do you communicate to others? How do you tell the stories that we're learning? So this is what our students are doing. They are addressing and tackling these deep fundamental questions in ways where we don't really know necessarily, well, we certainly don't know what the answer is, and we don't always know what the right approach is. So you're also learning how to study it. And so that is what today is about. Hopefully you get to see many different students talk, get to see their posters, interact with them. It's an amazing experience. And in that vein, we have a number of amazing speakers, and I actually get the pleasure of introducing our first speaker, Professor Jonathan Alexander, who I've known for, I won't say how long. We're both too young to know each other that long. He's a Chancellor's Professor of English. He's been Associate Dean in the Division of Undergraduate Education. He's interacted with many of our units there. Prior to that, he was the campus-wide writing and communications coordinator, and he actually was the founding director of the Center for Excellence in Writing and Communication, and I think I even got the name right. The embarrassing thing is I'm really bad at making myself notes for biographies. Jonathan has just come out with a number of awesome books, and I don't remember any of the titles. This is really embarrassing. But you know what? You all have technology. All you have to do right now is Google Jonathan Alexander recent books, and you will get the list, and then I don't mispronounce any of them. So it works really well. But I strongly encourage you to quickly go look them up. Because it's just exciting to know him and the research he does and what he works on. So, longtime friend and colleague, Jonathan Alexander.
Thank you, Mike. What a pleasure to be here with you today. I can only reiterate what Vice Provost Dennan has said, that Urop really is one of our campus's most important opportunities for students to engage in research, to understand the value of research for democratic culture, and to actually participate with some of the finest minds working in their fields. As Provost Dennan suggested, I too am a researcher, and I want to talk a little bit about not only the research that I do, but about the value of research for our culture, for the maintenance of civil society, and for the promulgation and the furtherance of democracy in our world today. We live, as you know, at a really intriguing moment. Intriguing may be the most polite way to put it. Our world is a little vexed. We are coming out of, hopefully, a pandemic. We are facing the prospect of ongoing economic, political, and ecological turmoil. The good news is, after nearly 30 years in this profession, working with young minds and training folks within higher education, I at least remain hopeful. I continue to have hope for what our species can do, for the collective energy that we can corral, for the ways in which we can continue to make life on this planet better for each other, for animals, for all of the other entities that exist with us here, for the planet itself. This is a high, high challenge. I remain convinced that we are up for the challenge. One of the primary reasons I remain convinced is because you're in this room right now. The fact that so many of you have elected to engage in high order forms of research, actually doing original kinds of research, suggests to me that the cause of our species to not only survive, but to help correct some of the damage that we've done to this world, to also create opportunities for us to live harmoniously and peaceful with one another, those enterprises will continue. And they will continue because of you, because of your sitting in this room right now. Am I putting a lot of pressure on you? Absolutely, because we deserve it. We absolutely deserve to work together to make this world habitable for all life within it. So, research. I, as Mike said, am a professor of English, which means I spend a lot of time studying story. And in fact, I got into English studies because I was overwhelmed in my own life by the power of story to be transformative, to not just affirm what it is that I think I know or believed about the world, but to challenge it, to introduce me to new ideas, to make things more, not just accessible, but more alive, and therefore even a little bit unpredictable. I'm convinced that that is what story does. I think of all research then, this is my frame as an English professor, I think of all research as a kind of telling of a story. When you engage in research, whether you're a scientist, an anthropologist, chemist, computer scientist, film and media studies scholar, no matter what you're doing, your research is telling a story. You're asking questions, just like Vice Provost Dennan said, and you're wondering, how do we answer those questions? You're posing yourself challenges. You're raising issues, and you're trying to narrate, how do we understand those challenges, those issues? How do we address the problems confronting us? How do we answer the questions that are facing us? So a scientist, for instance, a chemist might say, I'm interested in telling the story of these chemical reactions and their relationship to other chemical reactions. A physicist, like Vice Provost Dennan, might say, I'm interested in understanding and telling the story of the fundamental particles that govern our being, that make the universe function. Interestingly, physicists, I think we used to call them natural philosophers, have been doing that for thousands of years. They have been telling that story and contributing to that narrative for thousands of years at this point. Other folks, anthropologists, might be asking questions and telling the story of how do particular cultures come into being and how do they face different challenges? And also, how do some cultures die out? And why do some cultures come to an end? That's also in some way the story of history, one of my favorite disciplines, because it embeds the idea of story in its own name. The idea that we can tell stories, but even history is about recognizing that we can tell not just one story about the past, but there are many stories about the past. I often joke with my students that, you think the future is open. The past is open too. We are constantly revising what we understand about the past as we have new perspectives, as we listen to people whose voices had previously been silenced, or people whom we had not paid enough attention to. Our understanding of the past, the story we tell about it, is vital for all of our disciplines because it allows us to open up new ways of seeing and thinking and feeling and being about the future. What other kinds of stories can you tell? Think of your research as telling different stories, answering different questions, addressing different challenges, but creating a narrative. I'm convinced that in thinking of research as story, what you were really doing is trying to figure out the story of my life here. What is the story of our collective experience? What is the story that we are going to need in order to be able to survive into the future? And that brings me back to the point I was mentioning earlier. We live at a vexed, intriguing, somewhat precarious, but also very exciting moment when we are telling more stories than ever before about how to survive with one another, how to build a survivable world with one another. That is the story that you are engaged in. It is, to quote one of my favorite books from my childhood, a never-ending story. We're going to continue, at least we hope. And it's really up to all of us to make sure that that story goes on. In fact, sometimes I joke with my colleagues. Colleagues will publish a new book, and Mike's right, I've been very fortunate to publish a few books over the last couple of years. My colleagues will sometimes say, wow, I want this book to transform the world. And that is a somewhat arrogant thing to say. It's something that we sometimes as researchers hope for, that we will write the book that will answer the questions, that will solve the problems, that will indeed make possible worldwide transformation. Okay, I don't pretend that any of the books I write do that. What I pretend and what I hope for is that anything that I do as a researcher makes it possible for people who come after me to think the thoughts of which I am not yet capable. I want to say that again, because I am a limited person, born at a particular time, in a particular historical circumstance. I can only think so far. My ability to think will come to an end. My scholarship, my research, the story I'm telling, I tell so that people like you in this room can continue to tell the story, and you will tell it in ways that I can't. You will take it further. You will contradict it. You will be skeptical. You will affirm the things that are valuable and important. You will think and imagine and create in ways that I and other people like me and my generation are not yet capable of thinking. That may be the most important challenge you have, is to, as some famous scientist once said, stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, I don't know that we're giants, but we're at least people who are trying to give you a leg up to the next level of research, to the next set of possibilities for what people can know, and for the next challenges that we're all going to face together, and that you will continue to face after most of us, older folk, have gone. What is the story that you want to tell? How do you use your research to tell the story of how we continue the great project, the many thousand-year-old project at this point? What does it mean to be human, and how do we survive together? I have one final strong recommendation for you. I feel like I've already given you a tremendous challenge. Let me give you maybe the most personal dimension of this challenge. One of the things that I study is writing. I'm very interested in how people use writing to tell stories, obviously. I'm interested in how people use writing to understand their worlds and to build better worlds. So I've been engaged in a research project with colleagues and fellow researchers at the University of California, Davis, the University of California, Santa Barbara, and we have a research group project ongoing, multi-year at this point, in which we have been surveying and doing focus groups with the University of California graduates 10 years out. So I used to call this the writing lives of millennials, because they're all at about 30 years of age now. And I love talking to these folks about how they use writing in their lives, what they do, how is it important to them. And all of them, no matter what field they're in some way they are writing. Many of them telling stories about marketing, telling stories about science, creating narratives about teaching. No matter what field or profession they're in, they use writing nearly on a daily basis. Writing memos, writing emails, creating ad copy, writing research reports. It's extraordinary. We ask them about the most meaningful writing they've ever done. We ask them to tell us about some of their best experiences creating words on a page. Almost all of them say that what they remember the most fondly is working on a research paper. Almost every one of them says this. Now, they're quick to point out that when they were doing it, they hated it. They were not always having a good time. And in fact, I've just heard from a couple of my own students this past week. It's like, oh, I just can't wait for this to be over. But 10 years from now, if you were at all like these millennials we've been talking to, you're going to look back and say, wow, that was a transformative moment for me. That was a moment in which, as difficult as it was, as painful as it was, I had the opportunity to research something, to write out a long paper, to use my words, my writing, to explore and to inquire, and to think thoughts that I didn't even think I was capable of thinking. While these millennials are telling this to us, they're also saying, I wish I could do that again. I wish I had time to do that again. That's never the kind of writing that I find myself able to do because we are so busy working, making a living. And it makes me a little sad because what I would hope that you take from this experience in Urop is that you continue your research. No matter what you do, you continue to find time, that you make the time to think, that you make the time to have thoughts, to be creative, that you make the time to engage in research, even if you're not producing another presentation, poster presentation, oral presentation, publishable paper, even if you're not doing that, that you make the time, like these millennials wish they could as well, make the time to think deeply, to create, to tell the story of the world as you are experiencing it, as you are researching it, as you're understanding it, and then share that story with others. And together, we'll figure out what kind of story do we need to tell in order to make our world better than it is. I wish you all the very, very best as you go into the future. You give me tremendous hope. You give all of your professors tremendous hope for the future. Tell the stories we need. Good luck to you all. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Professor Kine. I appreciate it.
And thank you all for being here today. Urop is very special and near and dear to our heart. It really is the best of the best on campus. You came to an R1 university, and what distinguishes us as an R1 university is our research. That we bring the best faculty, and we hope that you have that you get to interact with them during your time here. And so I applaud you and congratulate you for taking that step and doing so. And the things that you learn, not just the scientific skills or the analytical skills that you learn, but the writing skills, the communication skills, the presentation skills, the ability to work with others, those are going to stay with you for the rest of your lives. And I promise you, will help you in your careers. And we want to help you jumpstart and launch your careers. And so I'm thrilled to be introducing our next keynote speaker, Kathy Smith, who is runs the one of the largest women's organizations, women's leadership organizations, next up in the United States. Formerly, she was a strategic director at Bayer, and now she is a diversity, equity, and inclusion consultant for Fortune 500 companies. And so we're thrilled to, I personally am a professor of biomedical engineering. I want to get more women into technology, into doing companies, into into the workforce and figuring out how to retain them so that they rise up into leadership roles. So I am thrilled to have Kathy here, and please join me in welcoming her.
Hello, everybody. It's great to be here. It's been a while since I've been on a college campus, and certainly UCI is very beautiful. And I was struck when I drove up because I thought I'd get lost, and my family told me to come early, and I drove right to Lot 7. So I'm feeling really good and very glad to be here. Can you hear me? Okay. So we need to, let's do this. Let's change this to the first page. We're just going to move it to the next page. No problem. We're just having a little technical problem.
There we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
we just want to put it there.
Come on back. I stopped it, but then I didn't know if I started.
Yeah, we're just going to put it on that first page. There we go. That's good. That's good. Okay.
We're live streaming you, so you know.
Yeah, and so this is aligned with a presentation that I gave just last week. I knew there would be tech problems when I came here, but we're among friends. Last week I gave a presentation and actually dropped the mic and it began to roll. And I actually just stood there and said, okay, I dropped the mic on this fabulous presentation. So today we did this. So I'm 2 for 2. I'll give a presentation in a couple of weeks and hopefully everything goes well, but it's okay. As I said, I am a diversity and inclusion consultant for a company, and I work with a lot of Fortune 500 companies on creating workspaces where folks feel welcome, where they are diverse, where employees feel really great about coming to work. What we're finding now in this COVID environment with this lots of colleagues working from home, some colleagues working at the office, is that employers are trying to find places where employees feel enthusiastic about coming to work, where they feel a sense of belonging, and where workplaces are diverse and inclusive and have a spirit of belonging. We've also seen a lot of companies now having employees that want to volunteer, that want to be a part of groups. And we feel that Next Step fills that void. We are a global organization for women, but we also have male allies, 21 regions and 900 companies that actually participate in the group. So we're going to see if we can move this. Nope. Okay, we're just not going to touch it. There we go.
Yep.
Okay. We're gonna move right here. We are leaders, influencers, up-and-comers, mentors. And the reason that we like to address undergraduates or folks that are getting ready to graduate is because we know that relationship capital, those relationships that you create, not only now while you're in college, but those relationships that you create after college can actually propel careers. And so it's one of the things that we wanted to talk about today in terms of Next Step. These are the companies that are a part of our organization. And our goal is to create an inclusive community environment where when you come to a Next Step meeting, you are able to find mentors or sponsors or people who are associated with organizations that you'd like to be a part of. There are folks in our group that have just started their career, so they're 21 years old, just getting out there at their first job, to executives to CEOs, directors, which is what I am. And so we're building a community of women and men as a part of our group. One of the things that Next Step, that's important is that we are a diverse group. Now, we're called Next Step now, but we used to be called Network of Executive Women. And we found that even that name excluded folks who maybe didn't think of themselves as an executive. So we wanted to create a more diverse environment. And for Next Step, diversity means ensuring diverse people of genders, ethnic backgrounds, sexual orientations, religion, ensuring that boardrooms and offices reflect the population and not a slim slice of the population. For Next Step, equity means equality for diverse individuals at work. It means that every person, regardless of who they are, has an equal opportunity to succeed and grow. And inclusion means to make sure that those individuals are there in the first place, to make sure that they are in the room. The part that is most important, and what we're finding when I talk to companies, is the spirit of belonging. This is where we're finding more companies want to make sure it's not only that people have a seat at the table, it's not only that you feel good about where you are, but that you feel the support of everyone else, this sense of acceptance and fair treatment. This is what it means when we talk about belonging. It is our goal at Next Step that all participants feel that they have found a place that they can grow and belong. So we can talk more about Next Step if you don't have any questions. It's been a pleasure to be here today, just to give you a snippet of our organization. Thank you.
Oh, you don't want to see me that big. Okay, well, wow, that was really wonderful to hear. And thank you so much for both of our keynote speakers. That was really inspiring, and I really loved hearing you talk today. So my name is Sharon Parks, and I'm the director of the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program. And I just want to say thank you so much again for coming today. It's a wonderful celebration of the research and the hard work that you've been doing. And our theme, Rising to the Challenge, certainly doing research during a pandemic, you faced a lot of challenges, right? And you should be really proud of yourselves for all of the accomplishments that you've had, and now that you're highlighting those and sharing those with us today is really fantastic. I want to take a moment just to thank so many people were involved to making this program a success. So starting with leadership, with our Vice Provost Dennan, our Associate Deans, Jonathan Alexander and Michelle Kine. We always have so much support from the top for Urop and for research and for really helping you all thrive and being able to sponsor this program in this wonderful day. So our Urop staff, we've got a team of staff that have worked really hard leading up to this day, and I really want to acknowledge and thank them for all of their hard work. We certainly have partnered with other campus organizations to bring it to light. We've got our communications team saving us today with our technical glitches. And then, of course, our corporate partners and all of those who came here to speak and to lead our lunch and learn sessions and interact with you today. We've got a ton of volunteers. We have both student volunteers and faculty volunteers who have volunteered to moderate. We could not do this without you. We've also got our student staff that work for Urop, our ambassadors. So again, it's cliche, but it takes a village, and we're really appreciative of all of your hard work and support in making this a success. What is up next is we have some exciting lunch and learn sessions. We've got 5 different ones to choose from. I really encourage you to attend, and actually 6, including an arts performance. So this is all in your program, but we've got one session on starting a business from an idea, another one, professional development throughout your career, leveraging social media for future opportunity, LinkedIn, navigating graduate school, application to graduation, and then our keynote Q&A. So Kathy will be here to answer any questions of the topics that she talked about today. We also have a wonderful arts performance, so we'll have a jazz trio, a drama scene, and a dance duet up on the second floor lecture hall. So I would really encourage you to pick which one you like and go ahead and attend that after we're done here. In terms of lunch, we are going to have you exit out and go to the patio to pick up your box lunch. Please try to do that as quickly as you can so that you can make it to one of the sessions that you'd like to watch today. And then I do want to put up when I'm done here, when those of you who came in, you would have seen a video going of our Chancellor's Awards for Excellence in Research. And I'm going to run it when I leave, and it'll be running on a loop throughout the day. I encourage you to come here and look at those people who were nominated and selected for this award. So this is recognizing exemplary contributions to research, both for a faculty and an undergraduate student. And each school nominated one of each. So it's really great, you know, one student, one faculty member per school, wonderful acknowledgement, and we really want to celebrate them as well. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and excuse everyone to move on to the next part of the day. And thank you so much again.